I never imagined seeing him again would feel like a punch straight to the gut. Of all the places, of all the times, it had to be the corner of that cafe we used to haunt, where the scent of roasted coffee beans always reminded me of him. He looked exactly the same, tall, confident, impossibly charming, but the air around him now carried a weight I wasn't ready to bear. It had been 3 years since Alpha had walked away, leaving me to drown in my own feelings while he chased his so-called perfect Omega. I had tried to rebuild, tried to convince myself I was fine, but seeing him there, leaning against the cafe's doorframe with that half-smile that once made my heart stutter, made every promise I had whispered to myself crumble. "Hey!" he said, voice low, hesitant, yet somehow commanding attention like it always did. I wanted to scoff, to turn away and pretend my life had moved on without him. But my feet betrayed me, taking a small step forward before I could stop them. "Hey!" I replied, voice tight, like I was swallowing glass. He studied me, eyes softer than I remembered, lined now with a hint of guilt. I made a mistake," he said. "I shouldn't have left." My chest tightened. A mistake. 3 years of nights spent wondering why I wasn't enough. And now, casually, he calls it a mistake. I swallowed back the bitterness that rose like bile. "You think that fixes everything?" He took a tentative step closer. The space between us was charged, heavy with memories of laughter, stolen kisses, whispered secrets in the dark. The town seemed to fade around us. The honking cars, the clatter of dishes from the cafe, the distant bark of a dog, all irrelevant compared to the storm he had just brought back into my world. "I never stopped thinking about you," he admitted, eyes glistening. "No one else. No one ever mattered the way you did." I wanted to believe him. I wanted to let the years of pain wash away and fall into the warmth of the boy I had loved so fiercely. But my heart had learned caution. "You hurt me?" I said, voice breaking, the vulnerability I had buried for so long spilling out despite myself. "I know," he whispered, stepping closer still, close enough for me to feel the heat radiating off him, the scent that had haunted my dreams in the nights after he left. "I was selfish. I thought I knew what I wanted, and I was wrong." The tension between us was unbearable. Every heartbeat seemed to echo in the small space between the cafe walls. Every glance a question, a plea, a challenge. And then, somehow, the old familiarity wrapped around me, the kind that only years of intimacy and unspoken understanding could build. "I don't know if I can just forgive and forget," I said, the words tasting bitter but necessary. "You don't have to," he said softly. "I just want a chance to show you I'm here now, that I see you, that I want you." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity, at how this boy who had shattered me could still hold such power over my heart. But I didn't, because deep down, I knew my heart had never stopped. My chest ached with the pull toward him, that magnetic force I had tried to resist. We stood there for a long moment, the world around us moving at its normal pace while we existed in a bubble of past and present colliding. My mind screamed caution, my body screamed desire, and my soul whispered that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. Finally, I took a deep breath, letting the cool autumn air fill my lungs. "One chance," I said, eyes locked on his. "But you have to know, this isn't going to be easy." He nodded, the faintest smile breaking through the weight in his eyes. I wouldn't ask for anything less. And for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't dared to hope for possibility. That maybe this time our story wouldn't end in heartbreak. Maybe this time it would end in us. The days that followed were a blur of stolen moments and careful negotiations with my own heart. He didn't push. He simply existed beside me. The same alpha energy I had once worshipped, tempered by patience and a sincerity I hadn't expected. He'd drive me around the quiet streets of our hometown, pointing out old haunts and laughing at inside jokes I had tried to bury. Each laugh, each glance, each brush of his hand against mine was a reminder of the fire we once had and perhaps still did. One evening, we found ourselves at the park where we had spent countless afternoons sharing secrets and dreams. The sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of pink and gold. He sat down on the swing next to me, his gaze distant yet warm. "Do you remember the first time we met here?" he asked, a teasing smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. I chuckled softly, the memory sharp yet sweet. "You tripped over your own shoelaces and blamed me for distracting you." He laughed, a sound that sent a familiar shiver down my spine. "I had to impress you somehow." His eyes softened, and for a moment, the walls I had built crumbled. "I shouldn't have left. I thought I needed someone else, someone ideal. But no one has ever felt like you do." I turned to face him fully, noticing the vulnerability in his expression, the way his eyes glistened, the slight tremor in his hands. "And now?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Now, I want you, just you." The simplicity of his confession hit me like a thunderclap. 3 years of heartbreak, doubt, and distance boiled down to this single truth. I wanted to scream with relief, to collapse into his arms, to let the longing that had been caged inside me for years finally run free. But caution lingered, a stubborn echo of the past. "Actions speak louder than words," I said, my tone firm despite the fluttering in my chest. "You've hurt me before. I can't just pretend that didn't happen." "I know," he admitted, reaching out, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. The contact was electric, a jolt that reminded me of everything I had loved and lost about him. "And I'll spend every day proving I'm not that person anymore. I'll earn your trust back, even if it takes forever." For a long moment, I just looked at him. The world seemed impossibly large and impossibly small at once. The park, the fading sunlight, the distant hum of traffic, all irrelevant compared to the boy sitting beside me, offering nothing but sincerity and regret. My heart ached, a raw, delicious ache, as memories collided with the present. I want to try," I admitted, the words trembling but honest. "But I'm scared. I can't guarantee that I won't get hurt again." He smiled, a slow, tender smile that made something inside me unclench. "Then let's take it slow, step by step, day by day. We don't have to rush. We just have to be together honestly finally." That night, we walked through the empty streets of the town, hands brushing, fingers intertwining with hesitant yet deliberate motion. The streetlights cast golden halos around us, and the world felt suspended in a perfect bubble. He told me stories of the years we'd spent apart, the mistakes he had made, the lessons he had learned. I shared my fears, my lingering doubts, the nights I had cried thinking I would never see him again. Somewhere between the confessions and laughter, I realized that the walls I had built around my heart weren't gone. They had simply shifted to make room for him again. It wasn't easy and it wasn't instant, but it was real. Weeks passed, and our tentative reconnection deepened. Every morning, I woke to a message from him. Every evening, we found ourselves lost in conversation, sometimes laughter, sometimes quiet reflection. The bond we shared, once broken, was being stitched together with careful threads of honesty and desire. Each moment of closeness, each brush of lips, each lingering touch, whispered promises of a future we had once imagined but lost. One rainy afternoon, as we huddled under the awning of a closed bookstore, he reached for my hand, fingers lacing with mine naturally. "I don't want to waste any more time," he said, voice low and urgent. "I want you, all of you, if you'll let me." I hesitated, feeling the weight of the past pressing against the hope of the future. And then, finally, I let it go. Fear, the bitterness, the memories of nights spent alone. "Then take me," I said, a smile breaking through my apprehension. He pulled me into his arms, and this time I didn't flinch. I felt the warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart against mine, the undeniable truth that this was where I was meant to be. The rain soaked us, but I didn't care. The world could wait. Here, in his arms, I was home. We walked back through the empty streets, drenched but laughing. The distance between us now filled with something stronger than longing. It was connection, understanding, and a love that had endured time, mistakes, and heartbreak. By the time we reached my apartment, I realized that the boy who had once abandoned me had returned, but he was different. Not perfect, not flawless, but real, sincere, and willing to fight for us. And for the first time in years, I believed in us again. We stood in the doorway, rain dripping from our hair, and he cupped my face gently, eyes locking with mine. "I'm here," he said simply, and that was enough. That one sentence held the weight of apologies, confessions, and promises all rolled into one. I leaned in, pressing my lips to his, and it felt like coming home after a lifetime lost. The world outside could continue to spin. The past could linger like shadows, but in that moment, under the dim light of my hallway, we were together, and that was all that mattered. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be doubts, fears, and lingering scars from the years apart. But as I wrapped my arms around him, feeling his heartbeat sync with mine, I knew that love had a second chance, and this time, we weren't letting it go. And for the first time, I was sure. Sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that survive the heartbreak and return stronger, more tender, and infinitely more precious than we ever imagined. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.